It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
Instantly recognizable, isn't it?
Absolutely. If that line rings a bell, you're definitely in the right place today. We're doing a deep dive into one of the most, well, enduring novels ever written. Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities.
First published way back in 1859.
Exactly. And it throws us right into the late 18th century, specifically those incredibly turbulent years leading up to and including the French Revolution.
Dickens just plunges you straight in. An era of massive upheaval, passion, sacrifice, profound change.
And what's amazing is how relevant it still feels, right? Even over 160 years later.
That opening line alone could describe so many moments in history, couldn't it? So our mission here really is to explore what makes this novel so gripping, so timeless,
It's this incredible blend, isn't it? The huge historical sweep of the revolution.
but also the very intimate human stories of ordinary people caught up in these extraordinary events.
So we'll be looking at the contrast and the connections, too, between London and Paris as Dickens paints them.
Getting to know the key characters, definitely, and unpacking those big themes Dickens weaves throughout the whole story.
Okay, so let's start with that setting. Dickens gives us these two cities, London and Paris, right at the outset. How does that contrast immediately set the stage?
Well, it's fundamental. It's not just background scenery. London and Paris almost feel like characters themselves.
How so?
London comes across as, bustling, relatively orderly, maybe a bit stoic, even with its own tensions simmering beneath the surface.
Okay, standard Dickensian London, perhaps.
Sort of. But then you have Paris, and it's just electric with this desperate energy, this revolutionary fervor about to explode. The contrast is stark.
And that difference highlights the conditions.
Exactly. It underlines the very different societal pressures, the different moods, and obviously the massive storm gathering in France. Dickens uses geography to really shape the moral landscape, you could say.
And speaking of that storm, the French Revolution. It feels like more than just history in the book.
Oh, absolutely. It's a living, breathing force.
Yeah.
Sometimes terrifying, sometimes almost strangely beautiful in its intensity.
Dickens shows the brutality, the terror of the revolution, but he also seems critical of, well, both sides in a way. He doesn't just blame the aristocracy.
That's such a key point. He absolutely condemns the cruelty and the entitlement of the old French regime. He makes you feel the misery that led to the uprising, no question.
But he doesn't romanticize the revolutionaries either.
Not at all. He's very clear about the dangers of mob mentality, the horrors of vengeance taking over. Cruelty is cruelty no matter who's dishing it out. He exposes the devastating cost.
And the guillotine, it looms large.
It becomes this incredibly powerful symbol, doesn't it? Of judgment, yes, but also how quickly justice can twist into revenge. That terrifyingly fine line.
Okay, so we have this epic historical canvas, but you mentioned the human stories. At its heart, it's really about three specific people, right? Charles Darnay, Lucy Manette, and Sidney Carton.
Yes, and Dickens makes them feel so real. They're not just symbols. They're shaped by everything happening around them, of course, but they're driven by love, despair, hope, grace even.
Tell us about Charles Darnay first, the aristocrat who rejects his heritage.
Right. He's French nobility, but he's appalled by the cruelty of his family, his class. He wants out. He moves to England hoping for just an honest, decent life.
But it's not that easy for him.
The shadow of the revolution, his family's legacy, it follows him. It constantly threatens to pull him back into the very thing he tried to escape. That's his central conflict.
And then there's Lucy Manette. She feels like the emotional anchor of the whole thing.
She really is. A beacon of compassion, virtue. That early scene where she's reunited with her father, Dr. Manette, who was imprisoned for so long, it's incredibly moving.
It sets her up as this source of goodness.
Yes, but she's more than just a symbol. Her strength, her loyalty, they actively heal people around her. She brings her father back. She inspires others. She represents this possibility of, finding connection and hope even when the world is falling apart.
A kind of counterpoint to the chaos.
Exactly. Dickens seems to suggest that empathy, that personal connection, is maybe the only real antidote to all that societal breakdown.
Okay, but then we get to Sidney Carton, arguably the most famous character from the book.
I'd say so. He's one
Yeah.
of Dickens' absolute masterpieces.
When we first meet him, he's a mess, isn't he? Cynical, drinks too much, wasting his obvious intelligence.
Completely. He seems resigned to being a failure, totally disillusioned. Broken, really.
But he changes. Profoundly. What makes his transformation so
I
powerful?
think it's because he starts from such a low point.
Yeah.
His despair feels so real. So watching him grapple with that, find some kind of meaning, some purpose,
Yeah.
it's incredibly compelling.
And it leads to that ultimate act of sacrifice.
Yes. Choosing to give his life so that Lucy, the woman he loves unrequitedly, and her family can be happy. It's just one of the most unforgettable moments in literature.
It is a far, far better thing that I do than I have ever done.
It is a far, far better rest that I go to than I have ever known. It still gives you chills. It's this timeless statement about redemption, about the human capacity for change, even in the darkest circumstances.
It elevates the whole story beyond just history.
Absolutely. It suggests that real change, maybe the most important change, happens at the individual level. Those quiet acts of sacrifice, of compassion, they might be what truly matters in the end.
So pulling these threads together, the cities, the revolution, these characters, what are the big themes that Dickens is really exploring here? Why does it still resonate?
Well, transformation is key, I think. The transformation of societies, yes, but even more so, the transformation of individuals.
Well, like Carton.
Like Carton, like Dr. Manette being recalled to life. It's about sacrifice, redemption, the fight against injustice, the danger of revenge. But ultimately, there's this thread of hope.
Hope. Even with the guillotine and all the darkness.
Yes, I think so. Dickens shows us the absolute depths of cruelty and despair, but he insists that redemption is always possible. The human spirit can endure. It can find a better way. That's a powerful message.
And of course, it's just brilliantly written.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Okay.
His descriptions of London and Paris, you feel like you're there. And the characters, rich or poor, they just leap off the page. So human.
So this deep dive really underscores the novel's layers, the history, the unforgettable people, these powerful themes of sacrifice, redemption, transformation.
It really holds up the exploration of honor, what it means to belong, the chance for renewal.
Mhm.
These things don't get old. They still speak to us now.
Definitely. If you haven't read A Tale of Two Cities, maybe it's been gathering dust since school.
Pick it up.
Yeah, we really encourage you to experience it. It truly is a classic worth cherishing.
And maybe thinking about this novel reminds us, that even when things seem incredibly turbulent, when societies feel fractured and individuals feel lost, the real power might just lie in those personal choices. Choosing compassion, choosing sacrifice. That makes you wonder, doesn't it? What could change in our own world if we really embrace that possibility? The idea that a far, far better thing is always within reach.